Aber da Yitzchok Boruch, das ist noch gut besser. Ich kann nicht was zu sagen. Ich kenne nicht. Was heißt? Ihr seid gewesen, du mit dem Ruf, alle Juden. Sucht ab, wo wir Dinge nicht. Skile von Nein, ich weiß nicht. Ich glaube. Ich verstehe, was ihr heißt. Ich verstehe es. Aber der Reden soll nicht anders so schlecht. Ich denke, du kennst Chaim groß. Chaim groß kennst du für das Moishe, nicht Chaim, Moishe. Moishe groß prägt du. Der schickt uns jetzt einmal mit der Lüwagen, was der passiert, was du hast.
Zinga Breslevenig, nur Hershel Kenig.
Whoever remembers the Ruv walked with us in the forest, he was teaching us the order of this niggun. A lot of, it's not kind of singing instead of Salandish, they're different order.
Everything is ordered, like.
Huh?
Everything in this life.
Aber da Yitzchok Boruch, so noch wo wir.
Siehst du, die Geist, das Geist schon ist mit meisten, heißt der Geist schon längst. Siehst du, was heißt der Geist schon längst? So ich weiß man, wenn sie sagen, einer ist geht weg von der Welt, kann schon stinken mit uns. Aber meistens Kopfschi, einer ist geht weg von der Welt, kann stinken mit uns. Will dich noch etwas tun. Also mit dem ist man sich mit Tappen mit der Nifte, wird der Hefte schon mit uns. Meile ist bleibt der Mitzvah, viele wenn schön nicht tut. Statt in Swur, man dus beschaut, wenn man kommt sich zusammen. Man chazert Werte, was man gehört, wird der Hefte schon Mitzvah. Dus der Geist schon nemes mit der Geist mit Menschen, wo sind schön nicht du, es ist nur etwas in ganzen der Mitzvah. Oder bei Yitzias Mitzrayim, das ist du gewesen, das hat mitgelebt mit dem Ruf. Gedenkt sehr, das Sachen, brings back sehr, das memories. Bei Yitzias Mitzrayim steht der Paroi sucht von Moishe Nahar, Tini Lechem Moifes. Mit gebeten an Moifes steht Tini Lechem Moifes. Der Kasche steht von Rebbe Meilech, wo steht Tini Lechem Moifes, wo steht nicht Tini Li Moifes, will Lechem Moifes. Steht in Chassidisches Swurim, als Paroi hat gesucht, als Mitzrayim etwas out of the ordinary, nicht kein Yiddish, weil du tit jeder Kische, du kann man tun, was man will. Ad gedei kach, als Gunisch ist nah, keine wird schon ein Spool von Gunisch. Aber ich weiß, es ist Kische, ich verstehe den Background davon, ich werde beklaut ein Spool. Jetzt mal etwas, was jetzt ein Spool werden davon. Ich sage, man sieht, jeden Tag wird man ein Spool. Jetzt mal etwas, was jetzt ein Spool werden davon. Wo ich an gesucht von Paroi, als Ayid, was lebt mit dem Eibersten, wird ein Spool für jede Sache, jeden Tag, auf viele Sachen muss sieht, jeden Tag. Al ne Seichu Shep Chalur Memuni, versteht dass es nicht Seichu. als nicht, mir wird jeden Tag, es ist nicht so, als sagt, was der Eibische Titel Schitze durch der Teve wird in der Spur jeden Tag. Es wenn insommer umgekickt im Ruf, und wir gesehen, was die Gmure sucht, ins Kolon Schumutal und Kol, kann Schimutal und Kol. Wenn der Rufe du gekommen, in gewähnt connected zu der Maschine, und also ist gegangen in der Mikve, sind wir ins Spur geworden, wo ein Mensch geht sich weg von Neibisch. Als man kennt den Ruf mehr und mehr, ist ein Spur geworden von jedem Mensch, von jedem Utem, von jedem Tritt, gelebt mit dem Neibischen ständig. Es ist bei ihm gewähnt, jede Sache, was gesehen, gewähnt a frische Mäufes. Es ist nicht gewähnt, wenn uns mal gesehen, wie mitschet sich zu den Mechaniklicht, und sich Baruch Hashem schon nicht gemitschet sich zu den Mechaniklicht, so bei ihm gewähnt derselbe Mäufes. Also kann aufstehen in der Früh, vielleicht du sitzen als Fechten, man hat gesehen auf ihm, wenn ist in Pain. Man hat gesehen, wenn sein mit dem Hitter so mit der Hand auf dem Stern, hat man gewiss, dass mitschet sich. Damals aber ziehe ich in einer Dämmels fragen sei was mit dem größten Schmeichel, wie es wohl gut ist gewesen, weil hat ein Tag. Ist du, zu dienen dem Eibischen, und alles, was der Eibischter geht, ist mitzuteilen mit anderen Jiden. Gesehen wir noch eine gewaltige Sache, was steht auch in der Surum auf der Tnil und Chemoifes, als Paroi getan hat, als Klal Yisroel sei bequem, wie sie sind. Sondern komfortabel, sie darf nicht mehr, sie will nicht mehr, sie fehlt sie gut nicht. Wer sagt, sie will nach Hause gehen? Moishe Nahan gesucht für Paroi, als der Stecken, was sein gehad, hat gewähnt der Mekorak-Dishus. Von der Wurm, sie gewähnt in Ganeiden, Finn Bries Woilum, und der Eibischte angelegt dem Stecken in Ganeiden, so es gehen Stecken zu dem Rischner gehad, Janke Vivinie gehad, und der Stecken ist umgekommen zum Moishe. Es gehen der Mekorak-Dishus. So der Tomerlich leigen dem Stecken, leben dir, leben Paroi, wie ihr Lenuchisch, das wären der Ärgste, was kann sein. Der Nuchisch ist der Ärgste, was kann sein. Aber es bleibt nicht so. Wenn man nicht für sich kommt zu mir für 1 Minute, geht umgehabt mit Haus bis Nuvoi, wird zurückgeht. Was der Ruf geht, getauscht jedems Leben. Es ist nicht nur keiner, was gehabt mit dem Ascheiches, das ist ein Leben, das ist getauscht, positiv. Ich habe nicht geredet mit der Bianca, hat mir so sehr erscheinen Gedanken, ist mir sehr gefunden. Bianca hat an die Jutsa noch seine Taten, ist aber du keine Gedenken an Taten. Sonst hat gerne Jidus, was hat gelernt, eine von den Sachen müssen verzeihen. War sich vorgelehnt, dass hier jeden Tag von 5 bis 6 vertut. 6 hat man gedacht. Es gewähnt Sintig, hat gelernt von 6 bis 7. Und 7 hat man gedacht. Fahre jede Chogge gewähnt Montag. Es ist damals gewähnt, ein Day off mitten der Woche. Es ist gewähnt eine Metzia, für die alle Jiden zusammen gearbeitet. Amul gewähnt eine Chogge, mit sich gedingen, wenn wir so morgen lernen. Sie müssen lernen.
Nicht getauscht.
Wo ist?
Das System hat sich nicht getauscht.
Es hat sich ja getauscht, ein bisschen schön her. Sie müssen lernen, finden wir in Davon 6 oder nein? Nein, ich suche sich steinig. Weil ich arbeite nicht, soll der Eibischte warten auf die Gemüse. Sucht er Sintig, setzt sich länger beim Lavamalke. Normal, davon noch später. Das ist damals so. Hat man gemacht, Abschure. Met Davon 7, met Lernen 5, met gelernt von 5 bis 7, und 7 hat man gedauert, weil man juckt sich doch nicht. Das hat sich getauscht? Ja, es hat getauscht ein bisschen, nicht gesagt. Sucht man der Bianca, aber sehr erscheinen wir ein. Der Mischel sucht in Bumezia. Hat gehabt, Jutsa noch sein Futter und noch sein Rebbe. Sucht jetzt darum, zu verstehen, der Mischel sucht ein weides Uwe, ein weides Rabbi, und ein weides Rabbi Koidem. Es hat sich gedacht, Jutsa noch der Weide von seiner Tat, noch der Weide von seiner Rebbe, der spielt er stärker. Der Weide des Rabbi spielt er stärker, weil so getauscht jedems Leben im Ganzen. Dus der Tnilige Moifes, was Moshe Rabbeinu gesucht für Paroi, wenn man nicht für sich alles nur umgehabt, mal ein bisschen, es zu sehen, his life will change. Sie geht sich zurücktauschen im Ganzen. Jeder bekommt bei Eisen Matzav Shehi, im so ist sie gewesen, hat gespürt, wie der Mensch tauscht in sein Leben. Es ist gekommen von einem Platz. Es steht in Svurem, Statsch, überhaupt weiß Hashem Lekeich, wieso jeder kennt man Ahavas Hashem, mit wie viel Mot lieber Jid. Seine Relation zu jedem Jid, wo sie sich kein Ziel lassen, zu jedem Matzav, jeder einer. Viele Davis haben ihm gesagt, den Puhn an, das ist nicht von mir, ich bin beklagnisch in der Stage, und kennt sich herablassen zu jedem einem, heiben jeden Mensch hecher und hecher und hecher. Also mit dit du hinten, dit man dort oben. Das Dreibische soll helfen, die alle was willen, noch gedenken, wo du sie gewähnt. Sollen Tage hecher werden, und es alle werden, in so ein Schiss, uns beistellen, Sommer können werden besser, in Sommer uns alle werden. Bis der Eibestadt helfen, man muss sich schnell in Gier sehen, die Kiez, wie an die Schöchen aufhören, man muss sich sehen. Man muss sich sehen zusammen, und hoffentlich damals wissen, mich geboren, wird sich kennen frei und sagen, ja, I made a difference in jenems Leben. Das ist hier.
Hershel voor werk. Nou, je draait de camera nog eens.
The camera great. That's
De camera draait. Dat
Zeg eens van de camera.
Dat is fijn. This is, ik ga redden van de Boruch. Als je het wist te doen. En ik ben niet gedraaid, niet waarvan ik gewist dat als bestaan met me beter nog zou redden. Ik ben eigenlijk wat is meer vergabberd meer is ik weet wie, aber anyway. Mais is hebben ze mag gehabt. Ik heb verstanden dat ik het mag beten. Aber ich kann nicht gerade, ich weiß nicht, was zu tun. Ich weiß nicht, was zu tun damit. Ich kann auch suchen so viel. Sie do a Masse, sie do a Sipur. Reb Nussen, der letzte Jahr, hat nicht gewollt suchen kann Haloche. Das ist schon. Ja, Reb Nussen vielleicht auch suchen teure, das ist schon, sie mit der Nacht auf den Ziehen. Und hätte ich gewollt suchen. Hat man ihm gebeten, Reb Nussen soll suchen Haloche. Hat gesucht, dass fehlt nicht geht. Fiestet am Weg. Hat er mir bei Frau gefragt, als er Nussen nicht suchen kann, Haloche, das ist schon, der fiestet am Weg. Das ist einfach. Und ich wollte suchen kann, Haloche. Dachte mir noch, das ist schon, hat er mir bei Frau gefragt. Ein Mensch, doch so immer sein Nefisch. Fiestet am Weg getan, und ich gegangen suchen kann, Haloche. Hat er gesucht, ich habe Meure gekriegt, als du Menschen, die kommen auf Oman, auf Rosh Hashanah, weil ich sogar Aloche, sie kommen eher mal Aloche. Kann jemand davon fuhren, sie derjenige, der sagt, du über das Jahr, sie hat nicht an, du über das Jahr. Und man da wissen, und man da fuhren kann man nicht gechillig auf dem Zieh, Reb Nussen sucht teuer, Reb Nussen sucht nicht teuer. Eine von den Sachen muss man gesehen beim Ruf. Ein Mensch gekämpft. Hat gewiss. Hat Masse gewesen, gehorben. Bei ihm ist kein Mensch gewesen, seine Sache. Hat nicht mehr wie gewesen, sucht über, was der Rebbe sucht, was Reb Nussen sucht. Hat allemal gewatscht. Ich weiß nicht, gewatscht, sie hat gedacht, watschen, sie ist gewesen, bei ihm ist gewesen, wo du gehst Tage vor. Man hat ihm etwas gesucht, man hat ihm etwas gefragt, hat er bringen in der Wendung, suchen in der Wendung, in sein in der Wendung. Das war solche gewesen zu sein, mit einem Doktor gesehen, als gewollt, als uns, so man sagen, mit Kischer, wie ist mit Kischer. Nicht, dass hat gehabt, etwas von sich, gleich mit der Garme Klein. Für sich hat gewollt, nur so viel als uns, so man sagen, mit Kischer, leben, also wie viel uns kann man leben, mit einer Reben, so Sache. Ich habe gesehen bei ihm auch Sachen, interessante Sachen. Aber sie ist, wie Yitzchok Boruch hat gerade früher. Eine von den Sachen muss ich aber nachdenken. Später, weiß ich hieß, ist 18 Mal früher. Der Ruf, so kann eine Brüche, ach jetzt dem muss gehabt, muss zu gehen ziegelassen zu jeden. Jede Kleinigkeit, muss any Mensch hat sich gebeugt zu der richtigen Saat, ist gewesen bei ihm der größte Simcha. In dem der größte Simcha. Also gekannt alle Dinge, als ein Bucherl soll suchen, geht da von der Minche, von jetzt und warten, es kennt meinen, als einer hat ihm gesucht, eine neue Bildung. Jeder avoide, jede Jid, wie ist gewesen und wie ist gestanden, in welchem Matze gewesen, eine Kleinigkeit gewesen bei ihm, viele der Jid hat nicht gesucht, der geht sich pushen mit einer Kurze oder Kurze. Hat so ein Machschiff gewesen. Jede Sache, was jeder hat getan, jede Kleinigkeit, was jeder hat getan. Der Mann hat sich gelernt mit einer Ruf. Der hat gesagt, der Gemeinschaft in der Kita Lopez. oi bekannt ich kann tu es ist gewesen du der blöse du gerät von der Haus bis Nove der Chaim konnte ich wieder so tun. Der erste Platz hat mal Schlange bei der Weide. Weil giftig ist beim Kopf, nicht bei der Weide. Habt ihn beim Kopf, kannst du noch kontrollieren. Der habt ihn beim Weide, dreht sich raus im Bastik. Und da habe ich gesagt für Moshe Rabbeini, habt ihn bis Nove. Der muss der Retter von den Indien, ein Mensch hat läuft von den Nationen für seine Schwierigkeiten. Im Nussen ist Masben, als der alte Zähne Säune ist nicht antläufen, das so haben, ist zu sehen. Tom wird nachher ist, die darfst machen für den Stecken an Schlangen, oder die darfst kontrollieren den Schlangen, das letzte Platz ist und so haben bis nur bei. Wie macht der Mensch von einer Stecken an Schlangen? Eine Schlange stecken. Die Schlange durch den Nuchasch, der Nuchasch ist gewesen, auf viele Chava, wo sie gewesen, jetzt hier gab, auf Schlakudisch Bachi. Ich könnte eine Einzige geben mit dem. Das ist, wo der Eibischter das ausgelernt. Von Moshe, die darfst noch suchen, aber man darf es nur schaffen. Es schaffen mit das Weg. Wo auch so, in Sabergatas hier, war der Rufe gewesen, no? Ich habe Yitzchok Boruch gesucht, aber ich dachte, ich habe auch Gatas hier. Innen tun wir nicht vergessen, als der, was hat solche gewesen, also soll uns keine Maske sein, Bianca hat ihm gehalten, in sind wir alle gekommen. Ja, ich pflege auch ganze Yiddish, er hat nur meine Kinder in eine Klasse dabei, hat die Beteiligung noch, du gewesen bei Boruchs Yiddish, aber die Sido hat der Bianca gegeben und gehalten auf Shabbos hat in sind wir noch gekommen dort auf Yiddish. In Eibischerhelfen, a größe sich hier, was uns haben wir gehabt, und haben wir das gehabt, das Friss für Bianca mit der Benai Bayers. In der Deutschen Helfen, so ich etwas auflernen von ihm, wusste zu suchen. Du aber bekannt, Hamasse, ich weiß nicht, man sucht das zusammen, bis damals zusammen. Der erste Jahr ist Kapper gewesen in Amerika. Ich gewesen, hat gehabt, Aid, wo es hat ihn getroffen, das erste Mal in der E-Zeit. Er gewesen, im größten der Wad Arabunen, Agides Arabunen. Hat gesucht, hat ihm gefragt, gerät mit dem Equus. Hat ihm gesagt, die Lebide weiß ich, wer sie sind. Ich kann auch nur sagen, sie sind Ziffern für Adain und ich kann Ziffern lernen für Adain. That was the season start. Der Jid hat gesucht, amul für die Rabunen, als nicht kein Yosher. Man macht Agides Rabunen, damals bei jemandem heim pflegt nach Satmar in Agides Rabunen darf gehen, wer ist beim Tisch, darf sagen, ja, meine, und so darf man tun. Der Wahl, jeder einer sucht am Heilig, und ist das hier gedauert, und sucht etwas Kleines. Da will ist von der Meule, aber der nächste Mal, was sucht etwas, soll suchen, Lamdaini Rabbeini, was? Sagt, ja, also ihr halt, also so darf man tun, sagt, Rabbeini darf man so tun. Was sagst du? Ich tue so, sagst du, man kann nicht suchen, ein Besen von 72, der Rasche Besen hat so gesucht, das erledigt alles. Ja, ich kenne den Maße. Ist gekommen zu der nächsten Drusche, hat einem Glas reden, hat gesucht, was gar zu suchen. Und ist rausgegangen. Rausgegangen, hat man ihm gefragt, dem Jid, ich muss jeden, ich habe gesagt, dass ich vorhalten im Satmar. Ja, ich habe gesagt, wenn nicht du gewähnt, bin ich sicher, ich kann vorhalten. So ist angekommen, ich habe mir getauscht, da ich habe nicht gekannt. Wer ist solche gewesen? Meinst du zwischen uns, wir haben noch gekannt, jeden von Frieden da. Also du hast gesagt, ein Mensch, ich sage es von meinen Kindern, du kannst dich Schmaß besagen. Es ist nicht bescheid, dass ist anders für mich. Na, man zadig, man blank zadig, jeder bei sich sein zadig. Es ist du also sag, wo es die Geist an Front von einem Mensch, wo der Mensch ist so anders von dir, weiß man doch. Wenn ich bin ich der wenn ich der. Aber die kommst daran an Front von ihm, wer ist die anders? Der Ruf sich an Bruche, wer ist das gerät mit ihm? Wer ist das gerät mit ihm? Ich habe ein paar Menschen, die ich kenne, die sind schon gewesen, übergekommen. Mit dem Gerät mit ihm hat getauscht und so. Seine Unwesenheit hat getauscht, wieso der Mensch, nicht wie der Ruf hat gefühlt, wieso der Mensch hat gefühlt. Met zie een ding. Eine von der ersten Teures, was hat man auch gesagt in Amerika, ist gewesen, immer Arab, da immer mal Hashem zurück, ist wirklich teuer mit Pief. Ich habe dann gesehen, am Hashem zurück, sie können nicht wissen, für wem zu lernen. Ja, wo sagt der, was hat man auch auf dem Sache. Immer Arab, da immer mal Hashem zurück, ist die Lehrsteuer von einem Mensch. Wo Zare bis bei ihm am Hashem zurück ist, da muss auch von ihm lernen. Tome lernst du bei einem Mensch, wo es Chas Schule mehr versteht, besser für Zare antläufen. Wer ist gerät amul mit einem Ruf? Also doch ein Matz auf Tage wie Bianca. Samt hatte in seiner Rebbe gewesen einer. Bianca, was Jutz hat von seinen beiden, das ist auch ein Beginn. Aber Samt hatte in seiner Rebbe gewesen. Wenn der Ruf hat gerät von Samt hatte, hat gerät von einem Mensch, wo jedes Wort, was hat gesucht hat, zurück limit. In ein Luhusche Bachreia. Quar heure suchen. Quar heure suchen. Das ist eine Sache, was man darf sich auflernen von ihm, so man nicht kennt Zantaten, aber ins Kämmerung kommen zu Zantaten dadurch. Der Hisbattles, was hat gehabt, war früher die Tzadikim, was gekannt warum stehen hat. Der Hisbattles, was gehabt, zu seinen Rebbes, das Battles gehabt zu seinen Rebbes, ist gewesen eine Sache, was findet, darf man sich lernen, es ist gewesen beim hat mir einmal gesagt. Hat einmal gefragt, der Tate, wenn ich ein Mann ist, noch gewohnt in Schleim. Hat gefragt, dem Taten, der Mann, der Schwieger gewohnt bei ihm. Hat gesagt, dass damals nicht mehr so wie Hahn. Ein Mensch hat ältere Eltern daheim, kommt es mit einer Nurse, mit der Aid, mit das. Es ist gar nicht gemerkt, es waren 2 Zimmern. Und der Mama hat gedacht, Mama ist bei ihr daheim, waschen, alles kennen von der Baden. Und du sagst, du sollst genommen ein Zimmer. Ich habe aber gefragt, der Mama, der Taten, wieso hältst du das aus? Hat sich die Tate gegeben, Marie von der Politische. Wer sagt dir, wer es halt ist von mir? Hat man darauf gesucht, der Baba hat gelebt, lang gelebt. Das Jahr, wo der Baba ist weg, ist der Tate plötzlich weg. Damals habe ich verstanden, dass der Tate gewesen was hat. Wer sucht hier, wer es ist du und wem man sich ist. Niemand ist der Baba du und man sich ist, ich bin du und man sich ist. Und da habe ich dir helfen, als in so man da ich seine Drucken mit einem Nehm, was gewollt von uns ist, in so man gehen herauf, in so man gehen, für wie ist gekommen. Und in so man da ich seine mit Kasche, sondern dem Derech. Und da habe ich dir helfen, wir bringen Bruches in Yeshias für ganz klar Yisroel. Klar Yisroel ist nicht als Gittamatze, wie uns immer gewesen, wenn ist weg. Ja, damals haben wir nicht gehabt, jeden Tag gehargert, der Hupf für Hamas mit nebach 2 Jiden. In Sach andere Zures, was ist geworden. In so Maracham Sanafins. Anna geht betet, also ich steht das wurde mal durch, Kedai Moire zu sein, Azadik, soll sein für uns betet, darf man sich muss da weg seine drucken. In sollen sind um klar Yisroel, und bei mir in alle Welt man nicht gar dem alles ist. Und dem Bianca. Und bei ihm, ja, in so einer das ist der Arbeit hat gehabt. In hat weggegeben, der Stieb. Ein ganzes Jahr hat noch weggegeben, den ist heilig. Und der Ruf ist gekommen, weggegeben, Oven, mit Nachhäufen, mit der Tug, mit der Nacht, mit allem von der Ruf. Mama ist getreu, aber ich weiß nicht mehr gesungen. Aber der Maße, kommt doch für Bianca Fisch doch auch gewesen, getreu gabe von der Heilige Karline. Heilige Kalever. Hat sich weggegeben, beleben Nefisch mit allem von ihm. Und in dem Schiss haben wir in solche gewesen, sie kennen den Jid. Und da habe ich helfen, so an der Meile zu Joscher, für Bianca, für die Sprüche, machte ich Abriss die Woche, mit einem Eibischen Ziel für eine Reinigung. Und solche sind zerspurs, gesud und rach meine Cholesterol, und man habe seine Yoeli, soll suchen ab und weiter.
Eins.
Ja, ich habe uns noch eine Stunde gereicht.
Try to be short. Today is the outside of, like Hershel said, my grandfather, Yitzchok Isaac ben Hershel and Eluzer Kenig ben Aron. I was thinking Biderach Remez Ba'alma, but maybe it makes sense to connect it. We know that there's one of the great investments that Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us to do is keep it av ha'em. says that you get the principal the next world and you get all the profits. You know, we all dream of winning the lottery and having, you know, $800 million in the bank, and all you have to do is just sit on the profits. Kibbud Av is one of those mitzvahs. So I was thinking that, you know, it's brought down in Chazal that a father and a grandfather, that's as far as you go in the Indian of Kibbud Av, so to speak. So today I would have the Kibbud Av of my Zayda, Rabbi Yitzchok Isaac, and Aim is Rabbi Eluzer Mordechai, Aleph Mem. So maybe it's a remez that we have both of them together to be mechaber both of them. But a little bit deeper in Kibbud Av Aim, I was thinking a few weeks ago that we know that the word Av, it means father, but in the Torah, Av means also Ava, which means to desire, to yearn. And Aim could come from also Im. It's the same lashon as Im. The mother is known as Bina, which is the ability to take two sides and, you know, try to make peace between two sides, understand things from two angles, which in of itself is great, but it also is very difficult. And that's the world that we live in always has dichotomies and diversity, and we have to try to make peace from it, which is difficult. So to a certain extent, we could say that Kibbud Av Ve'im is HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling us to honor both our taivas and all of our sfeikos, all of our bilbulim. Which means that just because you see that you have difficulties and you have all these things coming up inside of you, you don't have to run away from them. You don't have to imagine that they're not there or make believe it. You could actually take them all in and say that they're here and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, honor them by saying that they're here, and now I'm going to try to deal with them instead of running away from them. I think the Rav, I'll speak more about the Rav. I was only 8 or 9 years old when my Zaydi passed away. I really don't have many recollections, sadly, from him. But Baruch Hashem, father gives over to his son, and so Baruch Hashem, I have my father, and I could see many things that come out from my grandfather, and from the Rav. Baruch Hashem, we were zeicher to spend many years together here in these very rooms. The Rav also had this very much. I spoke about it a little bit last night. This idea of accepting and taking in what is and being mechaber it and going with it. He had a tremendous level, like we said, when he was very, very sick, it was very hard for him to do anything. And so he would do the most simple things. I remember once here, he was sitting here and he had no energy. He would always try to go to the mikvah. Get from his room to the mikvah. And dunk in the mikvah was a Herculean effort. It was not human to be able to do that thing. And to go into the mikvah with double oxygen, take off the oxygen mask, dunk and breathe with an oxygen mask, take off that's how he went to the mikvah. And he would come up and he would be like this for 45 minutes without being able to move. He would just sit there. And he tried to do that. I remember once there was a singer that came out, I think Shloimy Williger, and the Rav couldn't move. And as the singer was singing, and they gave big concerts here with only 3 people, but mamish all their efforts. And the Rav got excited and he started like shaking his hands and he started getting into it. After he left, he said, "Go to mikvah." He goes, you have to use it to go to the mikvah. You have to use it to do anything good. I remember he had this, and if Chevra nowadays don't remember, the boom box. He had a little boom box with a CD player in his room. Why do you have a boom box? He had these CDs that came with the Zmiris, that we spoke about the Zmiris, and the old Yiddish Zmiris that maybe people know here, but no one knows these Zmiris. The whole book of Zmiris. He used to sit there and he used to open up the Zmira, put in the CD with some kids or whoever's singing, and he used to just sit there listening to the Zmiris and following along. It's Shabbos Zmiris, not Tuesday night. So I remember I was dating and I came in one night, it was like 1:30 in the morning, and this is the garage door, and his door, in the old days there was no wall there. It had a direct opening to his door. So I was coming home late from a date and I was praying that the door was closed because I parked in the garage. I was praying, please, Hashem, he's sleeping. I quietly came in, opened up the door here, and it goes straight into his room. His lights are on. He's up, sitting there listening to Zmiris like loud. And he goes, "Yoeli, come." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I came into the room and he goes, "Come, sit." And it was like 1:30. He's sitting there listening to like Kariba and Olam Velma or something like that. And he's like, "You understand the words?" And he sat there, "Come, sit." And he sat there just looking at the Zmiris, and he would explain, you understood that line? You see, there's a mikdash, He just sat there. First of all, obviously the love that he had for everyone was amazing, but he also, he respected the fact that he couldn't do certain things, but there's always something you could do. There's always something you could light up. There's a famous story with the Baal Shem Tov that the Baal Shem Tov came into the Beis Medrash and he always loved when there was light. Baruch Hashem Mati illuminates our Beis Medrash here. And in those days, there was candles. You come into the base medrash one day, there's like a little candle. You can barely see anything. He says to the Hasidim, "No, where's the or? Where's the Raz? Where's the secrets? Where's the light?" They said, "Rebbe, we have no dam and we have no money. There's no money to buy a candle." So he says, "Well, who needs money? Go outside. There's huge icicles. It's a freezing Ukrainian winter. Break off some icicles and light them." So they go outside and they light up all these icicles in the base medrash, and Baruch Hashem, they have light. And somehow the icicles burn for hours and hours, and they fabreng and they learn and they daven. Unbelievable. That's a beautiful miracle, Ma'aseh from the Baal Shem Tov. I think also you can learn a tremendous lesson. Baal Shem Tov came into the room and he said, "Where's the candles?" We know that in Shema it says, "B'chol nafshecha." We should serve Hashem afilu noitalas nafshecha, even if he kills you, even if he takes everything from you. But nefesh hu adam. The nefesh is also the passion that we have, and sometimes we have passion, and sometimes afilu noitalas nafshecha. Kadosh Baruch Hu takes away all of our excitement for Yiddishkeit. We have nothing. We don't care. We don't feel anything. We're dead. So the Baal Shem Tov said, "Afilu noitalas nafshecha," even if you're ice, like an icicle. And the Baal Shem Tov wasn't into serving Hashem with ice. He was into serving Hashem with varmkeit. But at times, we're ice. Baal Shem Tov said, "Okay, no problem. Take a little match and light up the icicle." And I think that was the big lesson that we learned from the Rav, that no matter where you're holding in life, no matter how freezing, no matter how low energy, no matter how sick, no matter what's going on in life, we could always do something to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whether it means opening a sefer, or singing a zmira, whatever it is, going to the mikvah, any davar shebekdusha we can grab onto is a tremendous zchus for us. And we were zeichet to see this all the time with the Rav, even during the 14 years that he was with us. The Rav, I don't think was ever in a state of just like super healthy and energized. He was always incredibly shvach, and he was always battling and trying to do whatever he could. And we saw that with his life. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us. We should take that lesson, and we should be zeicha that no matter what happens, we should always be zeicha to light up whatever energies, whatever things, whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us, and we should be zeicha to see the Geula Shloimy. Chai Yisrael b'mhivra min amamish, amen.
Amen.
Remember when the only time he closed his light at night?
No.
The day before he went for a checkup.
He went to sleep.
That was on Ozgiri, so they shouldn't think that.
Yeah.
It's the only night when. That's how you know when he's going to the doctor. There's a David came, and the light was closed.
Wow.
My grandfather's all would only come for when the dude was going for a checkup.
No, he would actually come every day, but he would leave early before the roof left. He would go in advance. My father
He came daily? I don't
would
remember
go to
that.
the hospital early to
He
set
stayed
everything
here.
up.
He never slept here. He took taxis back and forth.
Until
He
I
didn't
moved to
wanna
Muncie,
be-
he would come every single day.
He didn't
by
want to be
bus.
matriarch anyone.
And once I moved,
He took taxis.
yeah.
I don't remember. Oh, wait, I don't remember this. My grandfather used to come here every day.
repeat this story.
Yes. Sit and learn.
Lots of Shabbos noch. No, I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't have my good dentures.
I know.
Motze Shabbos noch mal aber mal gedruf lek mal allemaal so nur op Hershel. Zoek
The
tamas.
massa, well done.
Bei Kiddisch pflegt man auch zu nu, wir suchen Sepira Masses. Motze Shabbos beavdole, no ba mal aber mal noch mal so nur op Hershel. Zoek tamas. So, for whatever reason, maybe because it's easier this way. Sepira Masses in daheim bei mir. I repeat the first story. Ich hab schon Baruch Hashem einiglich, wo sie weißen, als Shabbos sucht man Sepira Maße, die erste Maße. Und man verzeiht noch einmal die erste Maße. I mean, Motze Shabbos pflege ich allemal suchen die Maße von der Brick. Am Neo Basel, a Maße mit der Brick. Also, so die Maße von Baal Shem Tov, Nachman. Der Maße ist geholt, dass du auch jetzt hinter dem Brick gegangen sich in dem Mäuze. Und sind gekommen nachher, hat getroffen dort ein Schäumer. Der Schäumer hat ihm gesagt, was siehst du, hat gemacht hat gewesen, also geht nicht keinen Gruppen und Hosung. Hat gesagt, der Schäumer, also holt sich, also du auch jetzt hinter dem Brick. Lass mich Gruppen, wenn man sich zu teilen. Und sagt ihm der Schäumer, der Geist Gruppen, du, weil das geholt, sagt jahrelang, was geholt, aber nach Minuten in Holzkammer in Kamenitz, ist du an heute, sagt der Geist, fuhren zu 8 Minuten beten, der Schiss ist am Klassen Gruppen bei sich. Der Jid gehört Schmoi Beshamir, ist heimgegangen, ging danach Minuten, hat aufgegrummt der Holzkammer. Der Mr. Haskell war schon verschiedene. Einer von der Mr. Haskell ist. Aber der Oize liegt bei jedem Jeden daheim. Und wenn man fuhrt noch zum Reben, in Jöitze zusammen mit dem, ist man nicht Jöitze. Und wenn man sitzt daheim, weiß man keinem nicht, dass du ein Oize. Aber da fuhren zum Reben zu wissen, was man zu tun daheim. So, ich pflege alle mal so, was einmal sucht mir der Bläser, der sucht mir der Hershel, gebet nach Teufel. Die Woche ein anderer Maße. Ich habe der Bläser, die Maße kann ich schon auswendig mit der Hershel. A Teufel. Ob der Ruf betig, a Maße, a andere Maße. Schon, okay, Masken. Lo und behold, sie kommt fahren Menschen, das ist gewähnt hinten, der Ruf ist gewähnt bei dem Schmiss auf immer. Sie kommt zu Menschen, anders wie jede Woche, dreht sich aus der Ruf, sucht man nur der Herschel, der Maße von der Brick.
You know the postscript of that story.
No.
Oh, so there's a postscript of that story. I'll say it in English. That night was Motzei Shabbos. The next day was the Siyam Hashas here on Sunday night. The Rav, my father flew me in because we had a chasana the next day, and so my father flew me in from Eretz Yisrael, and I landed on Sunday morning. Sunday night, he wanted me to speak at the Siyam Hashas in 2012 to speak. So it was very late. The Siyam kept going and going and going. It was mamash before Shkia. I didn't daven mincha. You know, I have some Litvish background in yeshivas, so I was like, okay, I want to do it quick. And my father, anyways, it was already like people were losing patience. So I said, okay, I'm just going to speak for 2 or 3 minutes. And I prepared a few thoughts. And one of the thoughts was based on the story of the Maisa, that there's a treasure under the bridge in Vienna. So I got up there, and 2 minutes I spoke. 1 minute was dedicated to that story. So I said over that story. After I finished speaking, Eluzer David runs up and he's all red and he goes, "Yoeli, you don't know what you did just now." Last night I told Hershel, no more of that story. I don't want to hear it again. There's other Baal Shem Tov Maaseh. 20 hours later, you get up here and you say the story. I see that Hershel's right. It's a good thing to say the story. So
I remember walking in, say hello to the Rav. It was a random Tuesday afternoon at like 2 o'clock. Nobody was here. I walk in, and they were learning. I must have been standing. I was like, trying to get their attention. They were so ingrained in their learning together that they didn't even chap that I was standing here for 10 minutes.
The sight to walk in a Wednesday afternoon, wie der Bläser David pflegt sitzen. Der Ruf ist gewesen schwach. He used to sit like this. Das ist Pira Masses. Und der Bluser pflegt zu der Bläser David sucht. Der Bläser David ist gesetzt und ihm gesucht. Ich bin herangekommen, ich habe verstanden, das verkehrt. Man kann da raussetzen. Ja, macht das so. Sie sehen 2 Jiden, der Bläser David mit der Ruf. Haben gesucht Masses, wir haben schon gesucht 1000 Mal. Wir sind beide geweint. Mit der Sache Schmeichel, gegossen Tränen von den Augen. Gegossen, beide sind in Gesetzen. Hat gesucht, hat keinem nicht gesehen das. Und das ist nicht gewähnt für Chadishim, das ist Chadishim, das ist gewähnt Pushut. Gesetzt, der Bläser David hat vorgesucht, und gesucht, und der Ruf gesetzt. Gedenkst der Frieden.
I remember seeing that. I was by Zecher in Sfas one time for Lag BaOmer, and I get there, and it was after, I think it was connected to Shabbos, and Baruch Hashem, those who live in Sfas, Aron could testify the avoidance of the davenings, and then more davenings, and learning, and then more davening, and then singing and dancing. It's mamish, and then Reb Shimon and everything. Came Shalosh this time, and the Rav's brother-in-law, Reb Shmuel Moshe Kramer, who's older than him, one of the Anash of Brasov, was there, so the Rav always gave him that he should speak. And so he starts, and he opens up the Sefer, and the Kutimran, and Chadi Rabbi Shimon, he starts saying the introduction where the Rebbe speaks about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he talking about after a whole long thing, I would say 85% of the crowd was just like, Menamnem, it has strength, and he's speaking in Yiddish, everyone was just, and even the people on the dais, everyone was just like, almost no. And the Rav would sit there, and I was sitting there looking at the Rav, as if he was hearing a Torah for the first time, as if he slept 14 hours last night and had a good Shabbos afternoon nap, which he didn't. And he was sitting there like this, just listening. Like I was making a cheshbon. From when he was 8 years old, he must have heard this Torah every year, 3 times, at least. So it must have been he was like 70 years. He must have heard it over 200 times he already heard it. And he was sitting there like this the whole time. And he spoke for 30, 40 minutes like this. Like, it was unbelievable. To see the Rav, like he said, the pashtus of just hearing the Rebbe's Torahs, the same things, but again and again and again. It was incredible. It was beyond.
Wenn wir Pfleg machen, du an der Luke, hat gesagt, derselbe Stück Fahrer ist raus. Und ob da, wenn zurückgekommen,
Same thing.
als if jetzt noch kein Mensch gemacht. Der zweite Monat.
What was his favorite story from Speed Masses?
What was the Rav's favorite story?
I don't know if it was this one or not. That Motzei Shabbos, it was not.
It was definitely his favorite story.
It was not what the Blazer David wanted. Huh?
What happened? The story of the golden and the bridge went many times.
The Rav did tell us after the Petila, my father's once he was telling us about my father, and he told us that at one point, he said he was doing with my father Sefira Masis, and he said my father went. He says your father went somewhere, and he stopped speaking. He said, "Kenig gesagt."
What do you mean he went?
He
When
said,
he said-
that when he was learning with my father Sefira Masis, he said that my father
Went somewhere.
went somewhere, and he said he stopped. He said, "Kenig gesagt."
Sie gewinnen, sozusagen.
I was saying, George was asking me, I was saying last night that anything, the Ravs and Haggis were so normal, as I was saying last night actually, that the tzaddikim are very hard to connect with because we can't relate to their levels of Torah and their levels of avodah, but their Haggis and their midas we could relate to. So I was saying that the Rav's midas were so straight, normal, good. A different story that came to mind. I went with him once to Jojo was able to go to the Rav many times to the doctor. I went with him once. They made us wait in the waiting room. So we sat and we learned Sichas Aran slowly, beautifully. Then they made us in the room. They bring you in. The nurse comes in and she made the Rav take off his shirt and his tzitzis. And I was sitting there and the Rav was in his undershirt. And then they made us wait more. So the Rav's sitting there in Dveikus doing his Biderman. I don't know what. I'm sitting in the back, uncomfortable, trying to like. And then we hear the doctor in the next room through the thin walls, and he's joking and he's laughing, he's schmoozing with this other person, this other patient, and they're taking their time. I'm sitting there like thinking, he knows the Rav's here, he knows who the Rav is, maybe he could just come, maybe he could take us first. I'm sitting there like this. After the doctor sees us, we're going home, the Rav tells me, he said, when we were hearing the doctor in the next room, I had this thought, maybe he could come, maybe he doesn't have to joke around so much. And then I thought to myself, why? If I'm seeing the doctor, I want the doctor also to give me all of his attention, to be happy with me. That's how I would want. So just let her also have the opportunity to have that. The Ravs and Haggis were so yashar, and Midas were so unbelievably incredible. So I said that to Jojo that you see anything that the Rav did that was out of the ordinary wasn't like some makubal that all davenings are like with craziness, and so anything he does, you're always like If the Rav did anything that was slightly out of the ordinary, it was like, what? Wow! It was beyond belief. I said that the first night of Hanukkah, you could show this miftan, this doorway. The first night of the first Hanukkah that the Rav was here, when he was still on double oxygen, he lit right here in this 12-inch doorway, this little old, beautiful menorah that he probably got it from a Gedalia or something. It was beautiful. It was old. Loved it. Afterwards, they got the Rav this big, huge Hasidic silver menorah. The Rav had this old, beautiful menorah, and he sat there, lamatami, asar tefachim. And the first night that he lit, it was only him, his wife, his 4 unmarried children, me, his gabbai, and maybe another person or two. There was no one here. My father wasn't even here. You were here. Oh. So there were very, very few people here. And he got there and he said the first 2 brachas in his niggin, which I can never get. The third bracha he said, Boruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam. And he just stopped and stood there for over a minute, I think. And his wife started crying, his kids were crying, everyone was crying, and he was just, after a minute of silence, and for anyone else to do it, you say, oh wow, he's having such a service. But for the Rav to do anything that was out of the ordinary was so incredible. It was a real Rishima.
So what?
What?
There's one other from jede Sphira.
Sphira?
Jede Sphira. 49 Tage nach sie. Jede Sphira, jede Brocken. Als ik tschuni ben met Zwoisov, you give like
His
a
whole body would shake. Remember his shoulders would. I shake it this.
jede Sphira.
Right.
49 Tage, was das gewesen. Jede Nacht, das ist mit Chaim sein Leben, die zweite Sphira.
Yeah. So there was a story that they said over. That Chechianu, I have it on video. I hope to one day find it.
I have some of them on
They,
there.
I also do.
Yeah? Oh,
Here it is.
there you have it. So they say, your Yossi, his son, says that he was, the last few weeks, he actually, the Rav was so weak that he was in a bed in his salon so that he could still partake in the Sudas and still partake in the family. He was in a hospital bed. He was extremely schwach. And it was mamish a few days or a day before he passed away. And Yossi was there, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the corner of the room, the Rav says, Baruch atah Hashem, Hashem Malchus, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu Machlem, Bari Mini V'Samim. And so Yossi thought, Nebuch, at the end, when people are close to death, they lose it. So he ran, he got the Samim, and the Rav just flung his hand there. He said, Reach Gan Eden. He said, I smell Gan Eden already. So if it was someone else that said that, we'd say, wow, but the Rav didn't do anything out of the ordinary. So when he did these things, it was mamish incredible. So,
What's the story of the Tchelas? I hear you want them, and what you alluded to last night about the Tchelas story. Which story is that again?
The story I said over last year here, so I don't want to bore the people that were here last year already. Right?
I remember that, but which Torah is it?
Torah?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you mean? It was a story, oh, you mean which Torah does the Rebbe speak about?
The Rebbe says that today the Ikar Mitzvah is with the white.
Yeah, in Torah Zion, I think maybe.
I forgot. They showed it to me here.
Somewhere in Likutim around. And then I think the Kenigs were from Rav Avram Sternhatz. They had them in to just wear white, not on the Tchelis. That was what I said last night. That Stam, I was with my Tchelis. Rav never said anything to me, but then on the night of the operation, he just gave me a pair of tzitzis as a gift. So that was his gift and his very peaceful way of giving over what he felt was right. Which is the Rav's way.
Remember, he never imposed on anybody either. Whatever the minhag here in the shul was, 50 minutes, might have 15 minutes. Whatever we did here, he wanted. He never davened too fast. If that's how you daven, he accommodated. He wouldn't want us. And someone said, in Sfat, Shachas is so long, Shabbos, how do you daven so fast? I said, the Rav came here and no one ever said that, like, he would not burden anybody. I brought once with my son, a bunch of Bachrim. He had for Shabbos from his yeshiva, Litzvish guys. So they came in on a Friday, the Rav was going to, told them they're all here, they're off Shabbos, to learn with them, maybe something. So Rav said, let him come. He sat upstairs with them in your uncle's, in your father's library, and he had, I think, 11 Bachrim. Litzvish, as they come. And he spoke about the parasha. He never mentioned Reb Nachman, nothing. You would have never known that he gestammt from Breslau, Babish, nothing. He was straight Litvish today. He didn't impose on nobody, nothing. He respected a person for who he was.
Incredible. I remember his bittul to what was going on here, like he would daven much faster. Yeah, a lot of things happened here that wasn't the Rav's ways. I remember before he got
here was already civilized. When he was by Nacht.
Yeah.
He once walked out in pajamas at night because the kids were running around in pajamas. They shouldn't be ashamed. So he was dressed and he went back into his room, put on his pajamas and came out to the kitchen.
Because the little girl shouldn't be
The
embarrassed.
girl shouldn't be in there. We were talking about Bittel from Schnell Davon. I mean, this was like, I couldn't handle it.
I remember before the operation, there was no minyanim here. This Baruch Hashem is such a beautiful Hilula and Stiebel now that we can't imagine that in those days at 9:35 on Shabbos morning they sent me up the block to knock on doors to get minyan. That was what this Stiebel looked like. We had minyan b'tzimtzum on Friday night and minyan b'tzimtzum on Shabbos day, and that was it. a week was nothing. It was shut down. So when the Rav came, he was so sick, we said, let's try to pull together a minyan. So we tried, and it was very hard. But Reb Label, Goldring came, and Mamash Yidden came together, and we just edged to, bit together a minyan. So one day I remember, you have to know that Breslov, we go by the Shulchan Aruch, and the Shulchan Aruch says to daven Bizman. So in Breslov, they're very, very makbid in Zman. I remember once bringing Rabbi Israel Orbach, Reb Shlomo Zalman's, I believe it was his brother, or his son. His brother. He was one of the Gedolei Adar. He was in my car. I was going to drive him to Beitar for a bris once, and he sees the Likutei Tefillos. He goes, Breslov? I said, yeah, Baruch Hashem. He goes, my father, Reb Shlomo Zalman, was Machshav Breslov. He wasn't Machshav a lot of Hasidim. He was Machshav Breslov because they daven Bazman. So they always daven Bazman, and the Rav was very makbid on davening Bazman. But he also was more makbid on Midas Tavis. And he was sitting there in the front there where he used to sit in the old shtibel there. And we were trying to get together a minyan for Mincha, and it was Shkia, and we were still calling people, no, I'm not around. It was in the winter, so it was like 4 o'clock, 4:20 is Shkia. Calling this guy, that, we had 4 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys. It's 30 minutes after Shkia. We had the 7th guy, 50 minutes after Shkia. We got the 10th man, we got up, we davened Mincha. Now, for anyone to do that, Baruch Hashem, a lot of Hasidim, daven 50 minutes, why not? The Rav, it was a tremendous level that he just sat there, bittul gadol, for 50 minutes.
And dan breeder het op, vader in Fisher's house. Was that
Kippur, I was there.
I was that in
4 your brother was there. You were there?
I was in Staten Island with my in-laws. I got the call they needed minyan. I remember I left the family. I came here.
It was 10 people.
Was dat niet met me?
10 people.
I was there. 10 people.
Koft is neshama out at Yom Kippur.
That's when Nachman introduced us to the roof.
He was literally davening the whole Yom Kippur with the mass. You say a tefillah, one word.
Talking about Bella Bizman. Ein Mann comes to me once, will treffen a blues. Bluzer do cara. Ja, schon mal lachen, maar hierheen. Fragt der Bluzer, sie ein Mensch, make Geudels an als Verteure mein Gabra le Gabra. Kein Hackbe. Me endi koen, Geudel als Verteure. Zoekt de verwoezel Mensch Geudels an als Verteure. Hat gesucht, dass sie dort können aber smadisch, aber tun ich da wenn noch Zman Twelle. Es hat sich gestellt, dass mir noch Zman Twelle. Ja, Mensch, mir Geudels an das Verteure zu.
Because they're davening out this month.
Hat gesucht, dass Lemig der Milse megmen. Lemig der Milse megmen. Zu machen a Gede. Zoek de inge man für a Bluzer. Also, na, ich kann wohl wissen, was hat das getan. Und so blass. Und schon, sucht ihm. Fein, ich wollte noch etwas. Der inge Mann ist rausgegangen und der Ruf hat wen also wie einer hat ihm gepuncht im Boruch. Frag ich dem Ruf, was ist? Ist ein Rebbe, er fragt mich zu mir meg. Ist ein Rebbe, er fragt mich zu mir meg. Das ist nicht gewesen, es ist nicht ein Breslauer Rebbe. Das hat verlangt, dass ein Mensch, die riefst dich als Kapischnitzer Rebbe ist dein Rebbe, Kapischnitzer Rebbe ist dein Rebbe, dass die auf Kapischnitzer Rebbe nicht fragen kein Kasche. Das Mama ist like somebody punched him in the butt. Die bist nicht du gewesen.
Zamas, das war schon gedeckt. I mean, this.
Das hat der Schmeiß, gesagt, man stell dir vor,
The point is that die bist a chuset für Rebbe. Ich kim die nicht bei der Kaven suchen, der Rebbe gerade.
Huh?
hier the first time gesagt, will gehen aufs Kind.
I don't think
Hier denkt auf Klein.
Für ein Jahr will gehen aufs Kind.
No.
I'm schuldiger Schuld. I never told us why. I'm schuldiger Schuld.
Why? Because the accident.
No idea.
Because of Greenberg?
Yeah, I know.
Just to make a hedge.
case of 24.
Chesed, yeah?
He told me you were.
The Chesed, unmatched.
That he owes him a favor. He did him a favor.
Gator and told him that it's just some low life.
Here it is. No, I don't care. Nochem, we can't hear.
That's what I told him.
What's he say? What is it?
He said that
He told me he asked Gator about why he's blessed. Sure. Gator Rebbe told him it's only some low life. So when he told it to me, I told him they lied to you. Yeah.
Baron, you want to share with us the thoughts about it? No? It's a good one.
Record.
Huh?
I hope he didn't record.
go viral.
Baron was the Talmud of the roof. Lives in Ira Kodesh Tzfas. Is a Talmud.
Yeah, you have to know that whenever we heard some stories coming from Muncie, for us it was like from stories from Cheder Amitas. It's like with the privacy, the private thing that he shared with you in Tzfas, we're never able to be so close, and so we're very jealous at you guys the whole time. How you able to get this kirva, and it's right now. It's almost Rava de Ravin for the Yortzeit in Eretz Yisrael. There's shown Tzfas over here.
Yeah.
So it's the Vaday Schusay again Olenu Kol Yisrael. So I remember when the chinuch that the Rav held was always not for ourselves, just to see what we can do for the others, and a story represents that. When I just got to Tzfat, it was 1991, and I saw there's like a disagreement in the coffee room. It was like 50 shekels or what. One says they were arguing about the 50 shekels star, but the argument was hafuch. But yet legamre says one says this is your 50 shekels. No, this is yours. And I said, derech ha'olam, people said this is mine, and the other one said no, this is mine. But here it was like I feel like coming into a different dimension of a place where always. What seemed like leitiv, Rav always taught us to be able to generate chesed to the other. Once I was driving with Erev Pesach, and we were Zogat arranged some things for Erev Pesach for the Chalukah, and I asked him, should we order another pallet of cases of chicken? So he said to me, Aron, לא צריכים להגיד לך. I don't have to tell you that you need to order another pallet of chicken. So people are very makal. They say, what do you care if the freezer is gonna fill up chicken gam shvuas? Further on, you should give. And that was the avas hachesed shelo. That mashu miyuchad. I remember that I came in this morning, so the Shir Adaf Yoeli. I remembered that he actually started the daf over here. But I see you all guys so much. You're cooked with the ahava הרב בצורה כזאת מיוחדת. that I באמת אשריכם, אשרינו. זה עיקר רוח החיים. So the Rav definitely left an imprint on all of us. It's not like that he was here and he was niftar and he's gone. He's living in each and every one of us to continue his legacy, to continue his sweetness, his Avos Yisrael, his Beatle, and once he told me a word, and it really stayed with me. He said to me that when a Yid walks in the street, we have to be mekayim the pasuk v'ahavta l'orecha kamocha. But he mentioned Chazal, who brought that drush on a pasuk, don't say ve'ahavta, say ve'ehavta. You should make Shem Hashem mit'ahev al yadcha. That everybody who's going to look at you, they're going to see, they're going to be coming to Avas Hashem because of looking at you. That was the Rav. The Rashi Tevos Elazar is Ayin lo ra'ata Elokim zulasecha yasel mecha kibron mamash. You just look at his face, people come in, just burst in tears. Just a few minutes of talk. We used to go up the steps at the house. The heart was so heavy with like things. And just sit 2 minutes, 5 minutes with the Rav. Everything goes away. Everything starts, the sweetness that you would see. You had a tremendous problem. You sit on the Rav and say, I'm gonna talk to the Rav about my problem. So the Rav says, "Nu Aron, ma ata mesaper tov? Tell me something good." So you can't just you look for the good things that you definitely have, and you look. The Rav help us to his anova. He was never willing to sit on a chair, on the choshev chair of the, like the Rabbanim has this chair. It says he had like a simple chair in Trisk until the Chaverim brought him the chair, the Kisa Rav, a little bit more mechubad. It wasn't like a huge chair, but still mechubadik chair. He says, "No way, I don't want to sit on this chair." So they told him, for the Rav, for you, it's not what you want, but for us, it's important for us to have the covered, the respect, the chashivus, to see a Rav sitting on a chair, on a Rav chair. Says, "Okay, if that's the case, I'm willing to have a chair." And it was, and he had that chair of, and again, no, who knows what a kind of a big chair. I remember he was so. It was. We all remember he was a moil. I mean, he was moil, hundreds or maybe thousands of kids. There was one time that after the milah, not because of the milah, milication, no connection, but the baby was niftar. So since then, the Rav says, I'm going to stop being a moil. Not because of them, it was something else. And so it was not moil until Avam Yaakov Gabbai came up and he says,
Your child is today also.
Yaakov al-Masud. When he came to the spot where he's buried today, so he was choosing the Beis Chaim just a month before he was niftar. He was choosing the area, and he got this area next to not too far from Rabbi Yaakov.
Rabbi Yaakov gave him
He gave him this one,
and he went to check it out. Yeah.
Anyway, so Rabbi Yaakov Gabbai said to him, I have a baby. I want you to be my child's moil. The Rav says, I'm not moil anymore. He says, I'm not giving him to anybody else to be moil. I want the Rav to be the moil. And then he came up, he made the milah, and since then he continued to make. Sure, he was always moil, but there was time stopped, and Aram Yaakov got him back into moil. That was before, it was like in the 80s. In the 80s.
Because he wasn't well.
Okay. No, I want to say he was able to get a chizuk from his talmidim. It was like and the במקום ענוונותו שם אתה מוצא גדולוסו. One more thing, a few more things just before. His kaf schus was something unbelievable. I remember once we were driving together from Tel Aviv there was Kvish 6 was not there yet. Driving on the main road on the beach from Tel Aviv to Haifa. and we were passing by the beach. It was Friday afternoon or noon, and everybody was driving to the beach to have go to the beach Friday, whatever. Everybody was not from complete Friday. So I said to Rav, look at the Chevra. What about Shabbos? What about Achonos LeShabbos? He says, מה אתה רוצה? What do you want? They're going to the mikveh. No, באמת, going to the mikveh. But he wanted to get his concept al kafschus. I remember they were doing some the sprinklers in the yeshiva, like these fire things that blows water in case of fire. And they made holes in the walls, and it was like very not professional, not nice. And then so the Rav told me, I saw the Rav, how come they leaving the avodah undone? He said, don't you know that this is the way that things work? First they make holes in the walls, then they install everything back, and after they come back and they repair. So until today they haven't repaired it, but still, he said he wanted to look at just another same thing. We're doing the tzipui even, the stone cover for the shul, and they were doing like the stones were not like straight. It was one stone, the other. It was like not a perfect job. So I said to Rav, again, what kind of a job? What kind of a job they're doing? He says, don't you know? Aron said to me that today, the way to do the best work is not to do it straight exactly like it is. They change a little bit the position of the stones, so you'll have more. I remember when they were putting the roof, they were like the cement machines came, and the roof of the Bet HaKnesset Gadol in the shul, the main breast of shul was Chaim was just standing on the roof with his magafine, with his boots in the cement, and it started rain. So I was with Reb Chaim the whole time, just seeing how can he do some help. So he says, אני מתפלל השם, אני מתפלל השם שלא יהיה גשם. Because the rain bothers the cement from curing. Okay. So further on, maybe an hour later, I went to the Rav, say that we're bringing the cement is there, and the machines are there, everything is being. I said to the Rav, the Reb Chaim told me that he was mispalel for not to have rain. As the Rav אמר לי, לא ככה מתפלל. This is not the way we should daven. We should daven that Hashem wants to have rain, that it should not be mafriya, it shouldn't be bothering the concrete. He says everything he was. It always reminded the story. There was the kaf zchut that he had. Everybody remembers the famous story from the Chassam Sofer, the Talmidei Chassam Sofer by the Asifa Agdoila, like the great assembly, and they were sitting there, and at the end of the Asifa, one of the Talmidim of the Chassam Sofer says, I want to keep everybody quiet. I brought something miyuchad, special. What is it? It's a coin. It's a coin from the Machzit shekel, the original coin. There's nothing in the world you can find it. And I want you to, I'm going to pass it through each one, and I want everyone to look at it. It's something very special. So he started to pass it on, and just as I'm telling the story, pass this. So all of a sudden, in the middle of without any kavana, but in the middle of the ton, the coin disappears. So, only chashive tzaddikim over there, what can I do? So he says, okay, everybody, we stop everything, and we got to say, Chaverim, where's the coin? Nobody see the coin. Said, okay, 10 minutes passing, everybody look at his pockets, maybe it's there. Everybody looks at his pockets, the coin is not there. Okay, 10 minutes pass, Chevre, we have to look at somebody else's, everybody would look in somebody else's pocket. So look at the other present. One of the Talmidim of the Chaim said, stand up, says, no way, this is not mechubad. We're not going to do that. So everybody thought that the old man, he took so he begged, give me 10 more minutes, it's going to come. Please don't look in anybody else's pockets. 10 minutes, last 10 minutes I'm begging, if not, everybody should look at other people's pockets, and then all of a sudden the coin was found. The coin was found, and the altar Talmud comes and says, you know, I want to show you. I also have a coin. Oh, his son. Oh, I also have a coin, and who knows whether Hilula Hashem Gadol Hayah, if they would find the coin in my pocket. I also brought the coin just to see. So this becher that I have over here, it's not one alone in the world, but since I'm obligated to my tafkid as keeping the Rav's legacy to continue, I'm Boruch Hashem was zeiche to serve the community for maybe 25 years to collect funds for the Keilah. Thank God we have today over 1,000 students learning. Unbelievable. הכל במסורת של הרב, דרך רב גדליה. It's a big thing. I think that I would like to offer this cup, this becher, with the chatima. If somebody would want to have, like, let's say, would start with maybe $400 a month for the year. And Kula Kodesh Litzvas. No, 48, yeah. 48. Close to $5,000 for the year.
Cheap deal.
Usually, somebody would come and say, I'm giving higher.
Exactly. We're fighting about the shekel.
Ma?
We're fighting about the 50 shekel. It's yours. It's yours.
I have another one in my pocket.
Well, if somebody wants to give less, then...
I just want to say over about the Ruv one other thing. The kuvod that he had for people older than him. And I said that he didn't want to change anything here. There was on the spala here of Noach Weinberg. Before the Ruv came, he was the Zukin, he was the older one, he was the Talmud Chacham, and the Ruv did not ever let us wait for him, and the Ruv used to always write. So Boruch can tell you everything. What does Reb Noach say? What does Reb Noach say? He would never, he always deferred nothing. And learning, he would sit during the Daf Yomi. He wouldn't say a word.
A cover for the Umut. The roof asked before he brings the shield to us about one from Noach, you think?
A price for the stender. So he said over that the roof, if Yanko bought one for the roof said before you buy me, you have to buy for the Maya. So I just want to say that my own father was very, very, very sick. And my father didn't have shaykhs really. For me, he knew the roof from here. A couple times he came in, but my father had major surgery. And Dr. Pachter Taka was the surgeon, and he was in a very critical shape. And I went to the roof and I told him, my father's not well and he's in the hospital. He asked Nachman to drive him to the hospital to go visit my father. And I remember, I cannot forget, he told me he's coming. So I ran to NYU because I wanted to be there. The Rav's coming to visit my father. I couldn't believe it. He himself is in recovery and he's coming to see my father. So I went up to the house. I waited. My mother was with my father all the time. And my father, you know, he was a healthy, strong guy before he was sick, and he was down to, and a man of few words. That's what everybody said during the Shiva. And my father was already down to 105 pounds. There was radiation. He wasn't eating anymore, nothing, and he was mamish, almost on the other side. And the Rub came in, and he said to my father, "You want to have the ganze refuah, you have to eat." And I'm not lying to you. That it was a cloudy, rainy day, and when he started talking to my father, all of a sudden the sun came out, the rays came into the room, everything lit up, and my father said to Ruben, he's going to do it. He's going to try, he's going to eat, he's going to push himself. And he told me, you'll have the ganze refuah. That's what his words were, having the ganze refuah. That's what he told my father. And I'll never forget that Dr. Pachter, when he gave my father clearance, my father wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael after he had surgery. So Dr. Pachter came over to me in shul and said to me, listen, I'm going to tell you something. Your father wanted permission to go. I said he can go, but you have to do me one favor. He says, I was his surgeon. I know where your father was holding and what he had. He was like stage 4 Yanamachla. They didn't think he was going to make anything, but I have to tell you one thing. Whoever your father went to for a bracha, can you get a bracha for me? So I said to Dr. Pachter, what should I ask in the bracha? What kind of bracha do you want? And this is saying onto Dr. Pachter's kuvit, but he said, I have Baruch Hashem Parnasa, I have Baruch Hashem Nachas. Can I just continue to be the right shliach for Kol Yisrael? So I said to Dr. Pachter, no problem, but my father got a bracha from one person when he was sick. And that's what I'm Kenig. So, I don't know, I hope everybody was zoich and appreciate to get out whatever they could, but the Rav gave over a lot here, and he did a lot for people. I had personal mitzvahs that I asked him, he told me something. I remember once he gave me a shmeichel, and he looked at me, he shook his head, and I walked away from there, and I knew this is it. And Taka, that mitzvah, it was, everything mamish worked out 1,000%. It was like, you saw, we were able to read him, we knew him, you know. And if he had something to say, he told it also. He said, you have to work, you have to be mechazik. He was always, it was unbelievable. He was.
I remember when my son's bris, I was so crazy about the Rav that I only wanted to have the Rav to be my son. Sandik Moyle, I would have gave him everything, but he wasn't here. So I called him up an hour before the bris. I'm like, who should I give it to? I couldn't give it to anybody else. So he's listening to me, and he says, any Yid. I was just like, wow. I was so like taken aback. And I was like, thinking about which tzaddik, I'm gonna get the biggest guy in Muncie,
Moshe Bornstein
And
in Breslov. He was the oldest zaken in Breslov. So my mother grew up in Yerushalayim, and she was very close to Moshe Bornstein. The family he happened to be, my aunt was his first cousin. He was my mother's shatchin. So my mother asked her, Moshe Bornstein from Breslov, she asked him, who am I going to go to? I always come to Reb Moshe, I always talk to, who do I have? He says, there's one tzaddik. He lives in Tzvas, and his name is Eluzer Kenig. And my mother flipped out because we knew him already from here. And this is what Moshe Bornstein told my mother.
One of the guys from Montreal used to come here a lot. He said that someone went into Reb David Abu Chatzera, asked him a very important question. He says, what are you going to meet? Go to Reb Kenig.
The guy was from Tzfat.
I don't know who it was, but that's
Yeah, it was from Tzfat. So why are you coming all the way to Nariya?
Yeah.
You live in Tzfat, Rav Kenig. We never called him a blueser, but here he came from the he came with this
Well, we called him Kenig, we referred to him as Reb Eluzer. We never called him
The Rav.
when you spoke of him.
When we spoke of him, we said Reb Eluzer.
Yeah.
Eluzer Kenig.
Ba'atzlo.
Also because a lot of the Chabura I see from America already had shaykhs to his father.
Yeah.
So they knew him through his father.
He was always called
So
the
he
Eluzer.
was
Later
called
when
the
the community
Eluzer
in
because we knew his.
Tzfat community started calling him Deruv, but growing up,
He was Reb Eluzer because everybody knew the father. So that's how they differentiate. Rabbi Chaim Shul we call Chaim Shul, right? It's your door.
Well, we refer to him as a Ephraim. How the community.
Yeah. He said he was not makpid on tefillah. I was once.
He was makpid on tefillah.
Yeah, no, he was not makpid on changing
the way he came to. He was whatever the minhag of the place
Yeah,
was.
but we have to remember. I was once. I was with the Rav in Toronto, and we were late for the shachis. I reserved a place in a certain shul, and then I parked my car at night, and the balabusta came and parked her car behind my car. So I couldn't get up with the Rav in the morning to daven in the town. So we had to, we couldn't wake the balabusta. She was asleep, it was 7 a.m. And then, so we took a taxi or whatever until we got to shul, was late. And then we had to fast, get the tefillah faster. And as we left the shul in the morning, it says, no, Aron, chaptem tefillah. We chapped. He was very, very desired. His whole desire was התפילה זה היה בשבילו עסק המיוחד. But there's a one of the michtovim from Rav Gedalia. He writes, he brings a shaila. Somebody asks him a shaila. If there's the midrashim, if somebody's in style beyochid, there's a set of midrashim, b'mkom kedusha, b'mkom baruch. So he's asking, the person asking in the is it possible should he say that or not say that, those midrashim? He says for sure, you're going to keep on saying those midrashim and make sure, you should for sure say those midrashim. Another thing that he said, the places where in Bresel we follow Shulchan Aruch, having a yard site at Shul does not exempt, according to Shulchan Aruch, not saying Tachnun. So again, with Sharet to Rabbi Gdalia says, if I'm davening somewhere else and they didn't say Tachnun because of the yard site, should I say the Tachnun if there's a paim later, noch davening? So Gdalia writes down for sure you should, after everybody's gone, sit down, say your Tachnun, say Nefilas HaPayim, but make sure not to cause any machlokes. Nobody was going to see you doing something. So,
Yeah.
so the Becher is still for sale, Rabbi Sai. Whose Becher was it? No, it's a...
It's gonna be somebody.
I remember going to the doctor's office.
It's not the Roof's Becher. No, it's not the
We
Roof's.
were waiting for a long time, and he was sitting there for at least maybe a half hour. And it's always like it's a sensitive thing when the person who's driving him, they want the doctor to give him full service like he's a king, like he said before. He was sitting there for a half hour, 40 minutes. And so an older Goyish lady walked in. And we were sitting there comfortably, we were learning whatever he was learning. And an older lady walks in, and he's like, he literally stood up. He was, not the strongest person as far physically. And he stood up, and he's like, we sat for a while, let another person, let her get a chance. That's it. A Goyish lady and this, older lady. The Rav's sensitivity around anybody who was around. That was the Rav.
You could it says that after the tzaddik passes away, there's a story from Rav Nachman that there was a shamish that was very simple, and he didn't chop anything from the Rebbe when he was alive, but then when he passed away, he saw that he really chopped so much. So there was a story, there was a situation that I found myself in, and I'm sure anyone who was around the Rav, has this happen to them often. I was in a shul, and it was Shabbos afternoon, mincha time, and they get up to the Kriyas Torah for mincha. So they start leaning, and all of a sudden this old yid, I'm talking about like 100 years old, like old yid, like a ehrlich, tzaddik looking yid gets up there, and he was so old that people figured, from the way he was acting, that maybe he wasn't all 100%. And he gets up there, and they were about to start leaning, and he puts himself in between the Balkari and the guy getting an Aliyah, and he looks into the Torah, and the Balkari, they say Baruch, and he starts going, and he starts reading from the Torah, and so they said he can't hear, so he wasn't Yitzchok Kriyas Torah, so he would always go in the middle there, and he would just read it by himself from the Torah. And so then for some reason or another, this shul was very very organized, and everything has to happen at the right exact time, and so they leaned, and then they finished the Aliyah, and they tried closing the Sefer Torah. So this old yid was still reading slowly. He pushed open the Sefer Torah, and he's still reading, and so they were like pushing it. And there's a whole hoopla, and he was just there. And then finally, after 40 seconds, he finished reading that Aliyah, so he let them close it. Another Aliyah, they open it up, and he does the same thing, and people are getting upset, and the Balkar is it. Kitzer, at the second Aliyah, they said, no, Yavshar, they pushed his hands away, and people started shouting, and this and that, you can't let this, you have to, it was a whole plot, and Kitzer, people that were in charge of the shul basically pushed this guy off of the thing. I'm sitting there, I'm hearing the Rav's voice inside of me. That's what we hear often, just, Dino, where? You're rushing, you're pushing, there's a yid, the old yid, machabedlo, the Rav had midas, and you when you go around life, if you were to hear that voice, you continuously hear that voice. It's okay. I was telling Aron that by the levaya of the Rav, I never experienced anything in my life like that. I've been nebuch, sadly, to many levayas. Rav Levadi's levaya, Rav Elyash's levaya. I was by these huge levayas where 800,000 people, and the Rav's levaya had thousands of people in the small streets of Tzas, the alleyways. it was as if the Rav was there. Everyone was calm, tenla. It was like thousands of people, but all moving with calm and kindness and consideration for each other. I've never experienced anything like that. It was.
I remember once davening for the Ahmed Friday night here. And one of the songs, I started the song, and I went off tune. I got the blow in my soul. And I was like, I never went down for Ahmed a lot at that time. And I was embarrassed. I was very humiliated after I finished davening. I came upstairs, or right before we went upstairs, he chapped and I was like, it hurt me. I didn't say anything to him, but it really hurt me that I felt like an idiot. I started the niggin, the diamond was off. And he came over to me and goes, don't worry, it's normal, it happens. It happens to everybody, it happens. Like he made me feel better. He was sensitive to my, my humiliation. That was the rub.
Ja, ik vind dit is een
Say was a humble person. Humble.
That's why
Right? Did I get it right in the
People think that the Rav was this edelist, soft. He was, but inside he had such strength that people don't realize. They think he was like this edelist team. That he was. Yeah, he was on the outside, but inside himself, he was so worked on. He was so inside. He was enderman. He was a chazak. And just people, sometimes they look on the outside, they see this edel thing. Inside, he was such a powerhouse.
There was one time, Hey Be'av, by Hilula of the Rizal. It was also a long time ago when we were still fighting to put a pushkas in the cemetery. They wouldn't let us do it. The Hekdesh was fighting, you should not put the pushkas. Yes, no, whatever. So I was, we were just trying to get things in right order. And then I saw that they wouldn't let us do anything, no tzedakah for the moisters. So I called the Rav. He says, there's a whole thing. They wouldn't let us do tzedakah. So his voice on the phone was like roaring. All of a sudden, it got higher, and I could hear Rav Gedalia's voice on the phone. And he says to me on the phone, Aron, tagid lahem, you should tell them, whoever messes around with Breslav is messing around with the Ari HaKadosh. It's like the kazeh koyach. I never heard him like talking such a...
Eluzer?
Eluzer Kenig.
People underestimate how powerful.
He was very, in certain things, the Rav obviously was very stark, but in covered for Breslov and for... when I first met the Rav, it was very interesting. I become Breslov on my own, whatever, so to speak, Baruch Hashem, and then I was involved with the Zilberman's Chabura in the Old City, and they were extremely not friendly to Breslov, let's put it like that. And at that Tekufa, I spoke to the Rav a lot about it, and he was just very stark. And I remember once I was speaking to him, he's like, there was a tzaddik that lived 200 years ago, and there are thousands of people that come across the world, thousands upon thousands, to be by him for Rosh Hashanah. They could argue with such a tzaddik. They have any shaykhs to what this tzaddik was about. And then another time, I remember he was in the room there, and I was speaking to him again about it, of Belbulim and things, and he said, do you know the story about the Baba Sali? So I said, no. He says, someone came out, Keneged the Baal Shem Tov, and he said, we can't sleep here for tonight, we have to leave right now. And he was like jumping out of his bed. That was when he was so sick, and he was screaming. I remember he was, not even tonight, not even the night. We're getting out of here tonight. He was like screaming. He was like, you don't start with the Baal Shem Tov. You don't start with the Rab Nachman. He was so...
I remember, in Uman, you have a lot of 60,000 people. Okay, so you have people that are, not the biggest, not the most able, let's just say. So when they give out food, it can be chaotic. Everybody's jumping for food, whatever. Not the Rav's people. Okay. And I once was telling him, we were sitting in the car, and I was telling him, what's going on. These people, they're acting crazy. It's chaotic. They're jumping for food. So I was like expecting him to give me like this master answer. Like. The Rav's gonna fix that. He's gonna fix my question. And he's like, it's the Rebbe's Rosh Hashanah. His bittul to the Rebbe was next insane.
My father said the Rav was very normal. He said he went one year when my father went. He went with the Rav to Uman. My father went a few years to Rosh Hashanah, and he said they get into JFK or wherever it was, and they check in, and the Rosh starts running. So my father never saw this before in his life. Running. So he runs after, he goes, run. He goes, to Rebbe, Luif. And he said, you run, you know, and he was just running through JFK.
Every year, the first night Rosh Hashanah, after davening, the Rav would walk with his people to the tziyun.
Every tefillah.
Every tefillah.
Every tefillah, he said you don't pass the Rebbe's tziyun without, you don't go home without passing the Rebbe's tziyun. He would go and he would spend 10 seconds.
Yeah, Reb Hershel, yeah, exactly.
He would go.
He'd walk into the tziyun and, he would walk with such a softness and not like, you don't even realize that he's walking through almost. But the chassidim were mechaber him, you know? And he would walk to the caver, and he would walk, let's say the caver was 100 feet away from me. He wouldn't have to have everybody move away from him to get to the front. He wasn't like that. He would stand in the back, wherever, and he would just say, Good Yom Tov. And he would walk backwards. But the respect that he did it with was like, it was like you could feel it in the air. It was, like the Rebbe was alive.
We watch from the windows in Oman from my brother's apartment.
The Rebbe is alive. Ik weet niet met een jonge man. Had hem gezocht. De Rebbe is altijd. De Rebbe is aber nicht du. En nicht du? Wie nimmst du?
Who said that? Oh, yeah.
Der jonge man hat so gezocht wie... kann sich geschmackhausig sein mit dem. Der Rebbe ist da, der Rebbe nicht du. Nicht du? Somebody told you something, I don't know.
Where's this? It's news.
You know what's funny?
The Rebbe nicht du?
People have a lot of things to say about Breslov. When they met the Rav as a Breslov leader, it flipped their whole switch.
Yeah.
Didn't proselyte.
Huh?
Didn't proselyte. Didn't proselyte.
Didn't proselyte.
Since the roof mass, what you talk about this, do the Mansi. So he came for you and said, he told me that his wife died, and he married somebody at Abbottson. It says his wife's first husband was the roof in Silver Springs, Maryland. Silver Springs, Maryland. Says when they went there 40 years ago to become roof, there was only 2 women in the whole shul that had shaykhs. When her first husband passed away, there wasn't such a thing. The kehillah was 5 times as big, and everybody wore a shaykhs. He tells me, the Bakiva tells me the story, so I tell him, so what's the chiddush? He says the chiddush is that he never spoke about a shaykhs. He never spoke about it. All he asked everybody is to come to daven and learn 15 minutes. He says he never in 40 years mentioned that word. Der Ruf, sucht nicht gerät, aber hat gesucht. Hat nicht gerät, aber ja gesucht.
I remember sitting with him once. It was one of those, you unload to the Rav, your life, what's going on. So I was telling him something, and in the shmooze, I said something that was like chutzpahdik, like something that wasn't so respectful to the Rav. I don't even remember what I said. But I didn't realize it while I was with him. I only realized like after I would leave him, I would think about what I spoke to him about. And I'm like, oh, I said something that wasn't so respectful to him. How can I say that? Next time I go to him, I'm gonna tell him that I'm sorry, Rav. I said something that you didn't understand. As I sit down the next time with him, he goes, "It's nicht verstanden." Like he cleared me up that he understood that I wasn't clear with him. That he understood that. Before I even said a word to him. I thought it was like, he was, like you said, down kafschus,
He very often
I said something that
preempted.
was like it could have been insensitive, whatever,
I see people used to walk into it myself. He already preempted what you wanted to talk about, what you want, a subject that you don't know how to tackle. He already knew to start.
I feel like also when we would learn Tyrus with him, like when you're learning with him, here, which was like the most amazing thing in the world. I never even saw, when I was learning with him, I didn't see a clock. It was like, you could be with him forever. It was like so easy and so sweet. And when he would learn the Torah with you, and he would always give over a message. His Torah was a message. So like you could feel when you're learning with him, like you're doing tshuva. While like he's literally working with you, while he's learning with you, he's eyeing you and his other guy, whatever. And he was cleaning you as he was learning with you. You know the feeling.
So happens to be, I don't remember a lot.
He was talking to you, right?
Yeah,
You said if I saw shit, it's like, he means me. Because I said
don't
something.
remember a lot from the news,
It
but
was like a
one
dagger.
of the few things that I do remember, maybe I'm just imagining this, but I think one of the few things that I do remember from the news is that what he was excellent at was the fact that you could have left and then came back a week later and he would have continued the conversation exactly where he had left off. Right? He used to do that. It's very, like you said, you always preempt conversations.
When you would learn with the Rav, you would feel like he was talking to you, like certain nekudas. When you would sit here and learning with him, it was like digging into your neshama. I remember my wife was pregnant, and we had a Shabbos in Montreal. I told him I want to come. I want to come. And he was like, he was already ahead of the game. Like, it's okay, your wife's sensitive, you know, to travel to Montreal. Huh? No, I went alone. I went alone. Shabbos, Montreal. Huh? The Rav went to Montreal. I went alone a day later, whatever. What a special Shabbos. I remember one of the Montreal guys. A few times he would do that. They were striving kilo. Montreal.
Many of them have been coming to
masa?
Yeah. 20, 30
Yeah, I was once first the mass over here. I used to go to the roof. I didn't have like go too much to talk there. But I always like said I'm gonna get more because the mountains. And then one time was like the 3 weeks, was one morning I walked in. I was I zoek me. En waarom heb ik gezegd bij Samikdash? Bij zoals de gemeen als wij hebben gegeven zijn feeling was kom eens met feel, kom eens met wijs wat het is. En voor thema lines dat is bij team van de gaan bij Samikdash. Iedereen moest ik in de 3 wachten. Was de tijd dan aan het van deze schmies. Was it took a few minutes, but changed my life. It's now nog een interesting mass. Ik ben het was als bochter. Ook staan spelen. Gewoon 3, 4 met de. Ik ben aangestaan op Sabira met Safan. Like, I think it's called Safan, right? Canal. I walked into Tzvas, and I can see that ich got it jetzt. Danach bin ich gegangen zu der Wahrmacher. Ich kann schon zu der ganzen Fried. So, ich vergeht, du meinst, der Kenig, Altstuhl, Leben Altstuhl, Leben in Breslau. I didn't know who it was. So, ich klappe daran. Das ist schon 4 Sachen. Ich mach Chave. Ich bin gewohnt an der Kenig, was geht Shabbos Sidas. Ich dachte, ja, ist doch schon gegessen. Ich bin ran. It's schon gewesen, alles weggepackt. It was like, sounds so wie ein Hagit. Ja, so ist eine halbe Stunde noch essen. Das ist alles schon weg, schon zusammengebesen. It was man. Der was schlecht von Fridge und von das Gallen mit der mit Fisch. En gezegd een ganze Seite van mij gemaakt gaan, dus ik maak maar was. Ik breng dat bandje. Hij kijkt in een eetruzie. Ik heb niet gewusst. Später habe ich ihn gesehen, auf 1 Minute. Das sounds wie so der selber Mensch.
Every time I went there.
Cover that the sun took a left turn. The food nach 12.
You and your friend.
You spent Shabbos with his son. Shabbos afternoon, I walk over to the roof. They're schmoozing. The roof goes after this. My friend walks down.
zogen. Wenn ich von ich habe gesucht, hat meiner was im Mann brochen. A Tat was like dran, so viel Zeit und Effort in dem Sinn, der Sinn geht zurück. Was zogen nicht, dass ich habe gesucht, dass dem meiner im Mann brochen. Just tell me, if you'll put in this time and effort, it's gonna happen. It took 2 years. The kid detoxed.
En der Tax gebenched, benched.
Warum? Wie ein Tag nicht.
Hä? Ja. Shit, I'm alles. Schkijk, heb je iets geboren, scherp,